everyone. This is Gav, author of AIM. This is the first episode of the Uncool AI series, where we're going to talk about all the tips and tricks that the real builders of AI use as part of their work, PhD students, different folks who work at different companies in the ML platform, infrastructure, research. Why uncool? Because a lot of the AI is trial and error, and a lot of the work is pure hard work where people try real techniques, and a lot of it isn't celebrated enough. Maybe it's not so cool, so we decided to uh, showcase it, and this is the first episode. The guest of the first episode is Hovhannes. So he's an AIM power user, and he is going to talk about his project named UrarTU. And I'll let Hovhannes introduce himself.
Yeah. Hey everyone, I'm Hovhannes and I'm a second-year PhD student at TU Darmstadt in Germany, under the supervision of Professor Gurevich, and I'm currently working on large language models evaluation and code generation. Yeah.
Awesome. So from our conversation, we learned that UrarTU is this kind of very high-level kind of language model fine-tuning experiments framework that you built for yourself for your project. Can you share about the motivations for it?
Sure. So I guess this is the case for most of us. Like most of the time, we are working on multiple projects, and it's kind of really hard to switch between different code bases. It can be quite time consuming, and also when you're collaborating with some other people on the same project, it's really important to have something that is modular and flexible, and yeah, like a general framework sort of that will mostly guide you through your experiments.
So how does UrarTU work?
Yeah, sure. So the structure of UrarTU is quite simple. So basically, there are like few components. The main component is something that I call launcher, which simply decides whether you're going to launch the job on your Slarm cluster or whether on your local machine, depending on the configs. I guess all of us know like that it's quite painful to do all the configurations for Slarm and stuff. So by this, I'm simply solving the problem by having a nice configuration of Slarm by default, which can work for all of the users working on the same project. The second thing is a nice kind of like modular configuration file structure. So I'm using Hydra to manage YAML files. And the third component is AIM, which keeps track of all of these things. Yeah, like keeping the metadata of the configurations and keeping the state of the process, and also, yeah, all of the information about the Slarm job. Yeah, this is the high level kind of like the structure of UrarTU.
So can you tell us about one time, like, can you tell us a specific example of how have you used like a very specific any experiment, either successful or not, that you've used the UrarTU, and what has been the result and why it had shown its
Yeah.
efficiency or value?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I guess the most recent thing that we were working on was something that we are supposed to generate code from a given description like text description. So we were basically trying to take a vanilla T5 model and use some adapters, which are not just regular adapters, but graph neural networks, basically. So we were trying to train these adapters to inject the structure of the code into these networks, and hopefully perform better than Code T5. So framework-wise, it was quite amazing. We could collaborate on things like running jobs and modifying configs and everything, like keeping track of the experiments was not a big issue. Like it was working quite nicely. But yeah, the experiments didn't work out eventually. we weren't, yeah, like the blue scores and rouge score that we had were not quite good. I mean, compared to Code 5. So yeah, we kind of just dumped the project. That's yeah, not really a cool story.
What a uncool story, right? Awesome. So what's your next iteration for the project?
Yeah. So I guess the next iteration can be to kind of like dive deeper into more specifics of NLP, because the current framework is very abstract. You can basically run any, let's say, machine learning or AI experiment. So I'm thinking of combining a framework that I've previously built called KNYN NLP, which was heavily motivated by Allen NLP. So I'm thinking of integrating this NLP pipeline into UrarTU. So yeah, it can like better, yeah, it can help people to do their experiments much better, like much fluently, let's say.
Is it is it only you who uses the project, or are there other folks in your team who uses it too?
Yeah, so some other peoples in the lab also use the framework. So mainly whenever I start a project, I kindly ask them to use the framework because
Oh.
otherwise it gets quite messy.
By saying kindly ask, you mean you install it, bake it in a code, and everybody's forced to use. That's what you mean, right?
Exactly, yeah. Yeah.
There's one last question. If this because so many people in your team are forced to use it, is there any sort of collaboration, specific things taken care of?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of try to set up some guidelines and stuff to make sure we don't mess up the structure of the framework, because it's really important. And yeah, to try to write um, as much clean code as we can. Yeah, otherwise it gets really hard to manage everything.
Awesome, awesome. This is all I had to ask. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Hope other folks would be interested in. This was the first episode. Super excited. So we're going to try to talk with as many builders of AI as we can with these short kind of format episodes. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.